I'm not gonna beat around the bush and just be straight up with you. Certain people out there are trying to screw over Nerd City right now. Don't believe me? Stick around and I'll show you why. Let's go. In a very competitive YouTube space, I've been finding it harder and harder to find originality. And nobody comes to mind more when I think about originality than someone like Nerd City. From the character of Nerd City himself, Dr. Downvote, to his excellent editing skills, the amount of talent that goes into his work and originality is second to almost none on the platform. At least from what I've seen. And in the YouTube commentary space where it's becoming chock full of schmucks like me who like to sit down and just give you their opinion whether you like it or not, I feel like he's still a breath of fresh air. I mean, again, we're talking about one of the main reasons why J-Station is something we don't have to deal with anymore. That alone should buy him a lifetime of forgiveness, am I right? Anybody out there with a kid should be thanking their good graces that Nerd City stepped in with Colossal's Crazy and helped get rid of J-Station off the platform, because without them, you'd be dealing with your kids waking up at 3 in the morning, terrified that Elmo was going to come out of the closet to try to take them out. Or, worse, stabbing their hands trying to dissect a doll, hoping that there was some kind of weird fluffy intestines in there for them to take out and dissect. I mean, that guy was really weird. That guy was like really, really strange. And as far as I'm concerned, the internet's better off without him. I mean, how many times can you say guys in a video before it's like, oh, too much?
Guys.
But again, we're not here to talk about J-Station. Instead, we're going to be talking about one of the men who helped get rid of J-Station, Nerd City. Now, for those of you who don't know who Nerd City is a creator, kind of an OG creator, who's been around for quite some time. He's mostly known for his incredibly well-edited breakdowns of influencers who are known to do things that are kind of sus or just straight up cringe. Another one of Nerd City's major accolades was when he did an interview with Azzyland and exposed to the internet that Sniper Wolf, yes, that one, SS Sniper Wolf, that crazy woman, was essentially copying everything that Azzyland did and essentially trying to like replace her life. Trying to take her personality, turn herself into a sick, weird version of Azzyland, going so far as to copy Azzyland's house.
That would be nowhere near as crazy as plagiarizing a house tour and getting flexed on by someone who's not even comfortable in their own skin, in their own dresses, looking in their own mirrors, in their own house. Forget plagiarism. Like, that is actual mental illness.
And that's really cool, and I can totally see it.
I kid you not. Copying Azzyland's voice, looks, well, I mean, personally, I think Azzyland's way more attractive, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, that whole situation was absolutely crazy, but I do feel like Nerd City's interview with Azzyland was the proverbial nail in the coffin for SS Sniper Wolf, as her reputation on YouTube began to crumble fast with the whole stuff that was going on with Jack's Films at the time, and then the Nerd City interview was just the final nail in the coffin to end what was a tyrannical reign of SS Sniper Wolf, aka stealing content and just overall being not a great person. But again, the only reason I'm even bringing up this SS Sniper Wolf stuff is because I'm trying to show you the impact Nerd City's had on YouTube for these past few years. So those of you who may be unfamiliar with who he is will get to be a little bit more familiar, and I highly suggest checking out his content. It's really top grade stuff. I mean, the editing alone's gotta take the guy forever to make. I mean, shit, this takes me forever to make, and it's hardly anything impressive. It's just me sitting in the future, talking to you guys about things. But as I said, Nerd City's reputation has been under attack lately, but are the allegations founded or are they unfounded? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at today, because it's not so clear, cut and dry as someone's lying to you about Nerd City, because in a way, Nerd City has done everything that people are saying he has, but where we get into the weeds is the intent behind why he did it. And that is where this story gets much more complicated and nuanced than you may think it is. I think the best way to approach this whole situation is to first examine some of the claims and allegations being made at Nerd City. I will do my best to interpret how these claims may have been misinterpreted or just downright misrepresented to those of you who are watching. Because after all, I can't convince anybody who's not watching the video. That doesn't make any sense. So there is two in particular influencers who I feel have been the loudest in regards to throwing accusations and trying to change the narrative on Nerd City. And those two creators are Nicholas Deorio and D'Angelo Wallace. You know, never in a million years did I ever think that Nicholas Deorio and D'Angelo Wallace would team up to go after another creator. That's shocking to me. Because those two could not be further sides of the spectrum when it comes to the way they approach content. One of them is like soft and slow, while the other is like loud and obnoxious. They couldn't be any more different. I'm gonna focus on D'Angelo Wallace's video first because I feel like his manipulative tactics are much more obvious and easy to show you than someone like Nick, who's much more tactful and also much more like calculating in how he approaches topics and how he expresses what he wants his audience to believe. So first we're going to take a look at D'Angelo Wallace's video and some of the claims that he's making about Nerd City, and I'm going to break down why I think he's deceiving you and he's also being blatantly manipulative. Now, I think the thing that's interesting about this video is that both of the influencers I'm going to show you as an example of people who are kind of poisoning the well, if you will, go about it in exactly the same way. Just one of them seems to be much better at it than the other one. Case in point, let's start with D'Angelo Wallace. So let's take a look at D'Angelo Wallace's video. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So if you take a look at the very beginning of D'Angelo Wallace's video, you're going to see that he sets up the idea that what he's about to show his audience is incredibly embarrassing, thus kind of training his audience how to interpret the information that's going to come afterwards.
If I had to sum up today's video in a single word, it would be embarrassing. And look, I know it's not easy taking an L.
This is a brilliant tactic when you're trying to get people to believe that what they are about to show you is something negative, and it's a way to prime your audience to receive this information in a negative light. Therefore, your audience already knows, okay, what I'm about to see is bad, not good.
Ooh, that's bad.
And for people who are fans of D'Angelo Wallace, who already have faith in him, they're just taking his word for it that whatever this guy did is gotta be bad because we all believe in D'Angelo. Meanwhile, the people out there with critical thinking skills who can interpret information for what they see may have a different point of view. However, it's much harder to overcome that motive that this is about to be a negative experience I'm about to have, and it's gonna be at the hands of Nerd City. I think a good way to explain this would be, think of it like an alley-oop in basketball where one player throws the ball up so the other player only has to catch it and dunk it. So what D'Angelo's doing is, with his opening statements referring to this as being embarrassing, is he's launching the alley-oop up. Therefore, when he goes to laugh at what Nerd City did, he's gonna have no problem slamming that sucker down.
I've seen people lose and I empathize. But what we have in today's video is like an instruction manual for how not to handle losing something.
This is a pretty smart tactic because before D'Angelo ever has to read a single word from Nerd City, he is already setting up the scenario. This man is a bad man. Interpret what I say as bad and nothing else.
Ooh, that's bad.
Therefore, he is taking away the free will for his audience to decide for themselves about the information they are about to hear. He also adds like this line in here where all he does is win, win, win no matter what. And I know he's like quoting a song, but it's like just comes off incredibly cringe.
I mean, actually, I don't even know what taking an L feels like because all I do is win, win, win no matter what.
Yeah, see, like I told you, like incredibly cringe. I gotta admit, it's pretty brave of him to say this while looking like Rudy Huxtable, who went and raided her dad's closet. That's a Cosby Show reference for you folks. Out here looking like a black newsie. Dude watched one episode of Peaky Blinders and he was like, yeah, that's my vibe. Dude out here looking like the Black Benjamin Button. Dude out here looking like Samuel L. Jackson's kid. Lame ass Jackson. Go on. Dude out here looking like he's gonna tell you a story about how he used to have to walk to school without no shoes on. Dude took Macklemore's lyric, I'ma take your grandpa style, too seriously. Dude out here looking like a young boy version of Whoopi Goldberg. Now the fact that I just laid out a bunch of jokes making fun of the way this guy looks, some of you may now be able to continue listening to me while looking at this guy as some type of joke. This is a perfect example of what D'Angelo's gonna do to his audience when talking about Nerd City. Do you see how that works? And you walked right into it, sucker. Now that D'Angelo Wallace has primed his audience to receive whatever information he's about to regurgitate from Nerd City in a negative light, let's see where he goes.
I thought we would cover this Nerd City situation that you may not have even heard of because I feel like it almost happened in a vacuum. But every now and then I see a scenario that is just so incredible for all the wrong reasons. The world just has to know about it, and that's exactly what we have here. I am a certified yapper, but I'm not quite a debate bro. I don't really have the best debate skills of all time. time.
I love that D'Angelo says this because this is basically him announcing, like, don't try and call me out on this because I'm not going to be able to defend myself. When someone tells you they are bad at debating, that basically means I don't really believe in what I'm about to tell you, but I didn't have any other content to give you, so I'm going to try to manipulate this in a way that makes Nerd City look worse. And since I've primed you guys to believe that it's bad, you're going to just go with whatever I say. What happened, D'Angelo? I thought all you do is win, win, win no matter what. I think what you meant to say was all you do is win, win, win as long as nobody's trying to call you out on what you're saying.
Got him! Got him!
So before D'Angelo even reads one single word from Nerd City, he is going to again remind his audience, you guys are supposed to take this as an unhinged rant and nothing else.
And yet something tells me literally anyone could have handled this scenario better than Nerd City.
You sure about that?
So today you will be receiving a dramatic reading of what is undoubtedly the most unhinged YouTuber meltdown I have seen in a while.
Whoa, weird cut, D'Angelo. I don't know why you had to get so close to my face. Why do you have the camera so close to your face? I'm just so curious of that. Like, you had a great angle when you started the video, and then all of a sudden you're just like this. It just, I don't know, it just kind of freaked me out a little bit. I wasn't expecting it, okay? Finally, we're gonna hear Angelo start to go over some of the things that Nerd City talks about. Now that the audience is nice and primed and know that we are supposed to hate this guy. Yes, yes, okay, we hate. You tell us hate, we hate him.
Boo this man!
So like you can see from like the spikes when he posted a video, at the bottom shows the views going up, but the top one kind of shows the subscribers going down. So what is he posting that has people kind of just gradually drifting away? He's made videos about like breaking down demonetization, calling out influencers like Jake Paul, who obviously deserve it, though maybe criticizing women online in a series called Thought Patrol kind of shows not all of this content has aged the best.
Now this is a brilliant tactic by D'Angelo Wallace. He's attempting to show that he's trying to be good faith here by pointing out that yes, Jake Paul deserved to have a video made about him criticizing him. But that's only because D'Angelo knows that he found Thought Patrol, that was a series that was made 6 years ago. And that was well before COVID and all the crazy woke changes that took place. So yes, of course, older YouTube videos aren't going to age as well. But this is just a way to be like, yo, look, see, this guy's bad. He's not one of us. He talks about thoughts. Also, I want to point out the graph that he showed, right? The one thing you'll learn about Nerd City is that he only posts every seldomly. He doesn't post every single day like a lot of creators try to do, like D'Angelo's doing with this video. And the thing is, that's not the type of content that Nerd City makes. He makes very well-edited, thought-provoking content that takes time to make. Not to mention that if D'Angelo did any research, he would know at the time Nerd City was trying to clean out his Discord of people who were basically trying to be trolly in his Discord. We'll get into that more later when we talk about Nick's portion of this video. Suffice to say, you know, eventually he's gonna rub a couple people the wrong way, on top of having a bunch of creators going after him, like Nick Deorio. You know, it wouldn't be a shock to see his subscriber count drop. Now, here's the thing that's crazy, is that you still see the views going up way higher than that little tiny curve at the end of subscribers going down. And the funny thing is, one more video from Nerd City, and that thing's going right back up again. But he's not going to mention that to you because that doesn't work with the narrative he's trying to conclude here.
He came back after a long hiatus in a video where he's calling out people for like trying to sell NFTs to their audience, which he ends by selling NFTs to his audience. These quote-unquote ethical NFTs. People were like, I'm really hoping this is an elaborate joke or a prank. Bold of you to still do your NFT project after the market has completely crashed. Pointing out that ethical NFT is a bit of an oxymoron, and most sane people would not buy an NFT if someone told them to at gunpoint. And seeing as the video before that was also shilling NFTs, but it was just kind of stuck at the end, so I don't think it caught as much flack. Even as far back as 3 years ago, people were disappointed to see Nerd City just dive into this crypto flavored downward spiral.
Now, regardless of how you feel about NFTs, it's clear as day that D'Angelo Wallace didn't watch that video. Had he watched that video, he would have seen that Nerd City was pointing out that there are a lot of bad actors in the NFT space and why you shouldn't trust them. He wasn't saying screw all NFTs. In fact, he believes so much in the project that he decided to start his own NFTs. And he did that in a way to say, hey, if you guys invested in my NFTs, I promise you I will not scam you. It was his way of believing in a concept that he was in control of to try to help the business that he believed in.
Individuals in the YouTube community.
I promised that we were going to take a closer look at the trend of digital collectibles, both the good and the bad. And one after another, celebrities, YouTubers, brands that are perfectly capable of doing something good, making something good, made something bad, or ran away and didn't make anything at all.
We have literally figured out a way to sell nothing.
Wait a minute. Where have I seen that guy before? Ah, that's who it is. It's the guy who looks like the Newsies version of Whoopi Goldberg. Now, bear with me here. Could it be possible that this guy was upset that he appeared in Nerd City's NFT video, and that's why he's making this? Just something to think about. Now, regardless of what you think about NFTs, if you believed in a project, let's say, for instance, you love fast food, but that Wendy's you always went to was just messing up your order, giving you the wrong burgers, but you just really loved burgers, it wouldn't be shocked to me that you would open up your own burger stand or be like, you know what, there's a market for someone out there who actually takes this stuff seriously. It's not like he was trying to be like, don't buy anybody else's NFTs, only buy mine. He was basically saying, I like NFTs, I believe in what they stand for, so I'm gonna start one that I know isn't gonna be a scam. That's all it comes down to. And this is also evident that D'Angelo has no effing clue what an NFT is and what it does, what it represents, what it's worth, why it's worth what it's worth. He's probably one of those people out there who still believe that if you screenshot an NFT, it's now yours. It's not how it works, guys. And another cunning tactic that D'Angelo Wallace used right here was saying that Nerd City was going to be in a controversy in 6 months using some random Redditor's comment. He tried to make it sound as though that was in regards to the NFTs, but the launch of the DAP NFT, which stands for Dead Avatar Project, has been a complete success. So to try to link his Dead Avatar Project NFTs with the controversy he is currently embroiled in is disingenuous and incredibly manipulative. And for anybody who's like, yeah, but his DAPs dropped in price, well, that's because at the time that he announced it, they were in a bull market, which is when prices are at all-time highs, but the bear market crash happened before he could get them out. Therefore, the price of them dropped. A bull market, all-time highs, bear market, low prices. Not to give you guys like a market strategy, but I know that there's gonna be someone in there being like, yeah, but his DAPs aren't worth what they were. Yeah, but they will be again. I promise you, the minute that the bull market takes over, those DAPs are gonna shoot right back up and be worth a lot of money again. That's just how crypto works. To be honest, if he was really looking for a quick buck, he would have rushed them out during the height of the bull run, but he didn't. He waited, and you could tell he's invested in this project for the long run. Just because you don't understand NFT doesn't mean they're unethical.
5 months after that, somebody posts this thread where they're just promoting one of Nerd City's new videos. And 1 month afterwards, Nerd City joins the thread and just freaks out on everybody. So let the dramatic reading commence. There was a time where I'd have been excited for an hour-long Nerd City video. Yeah, I just felt discomfort from the notification.
Notice that his only source here is going to Reddit, where you're gonna find like the most hateful people ever. I don't think I've ever seen a Reddit post where everybody's talking about how much they like a creator. I don't think I've ever seen it. Especially in r/YouTube drama. It's a drama Reddit for people who hate every single creator that they talk about in there. Like, why are you even in that subreddit if you hate YouTubers so much? Weirdos.
Maybe I'll watch later, who knows? And to this reply, we have Reddit user paging Dr. Downvote, who is Nerd City, and said, I wish you weren't lying and you actually felt discomfort. How can I increase your actual pain? You could cash app me $200 to continue this conversation. Maybe that'll hurt. I'm a bit out of the loop on Nerd City. What exactly did he do? To which Nerd City answers for himself. As you can see, nothing, but not bow down to the cowards who dogpile people and pretend everyone is a for doing something a little baby sheep didn't like. Think for yourselves. What a pathetic mob.
All right, now I'm not even gonna lie. This is my absolute favorite part of this whole entire video because D'Angelo Wallace, who swears to God he never takes an L in his life, is taking an L right in front of our faces. How? Because Nerd City's not replying to this as Nerd City. He is replying to this as Dr. Downvote. His name literally has Downvote in the name. Do you guys not see how like silly this makes D'Angelo Wallace look? The fact that he couldn't even see that this was a clear troll. Nerd City kind of having fun with some of his trollers on Reddit. Now, I haven't been shy about the fact that I can't stand people on r/YouTube drama. Sometimes I like to go fuck with them too. But if we're gonna all of a sudden chalk this up as a mental breakdown when it's obvious trolling, the only person really being trolled here is D'Angelo Wallace. And he's fallen right for it this whole time. Captain, I never take a L. Congratulations, you got your first one right there in front of us by not realizing that the guy who's called Dr. Downvote is getting downvoted on purpose. It's beautiful. Honestly, you can't write this shit. Welcome to the internet, folks.
I mean, actually, I don't even know what taking an L feels like.
I guess there's a first for everything. Now, I gotta be honest though, D'Angelo. You better get used to taking them L's, because you're gonna take a lot of them during the rest of this video. Consider this your crash course in taking L's like a man. To quote the great Carol Carpenter,
we've only just begun.
Now, I want to see if anybody notices a specific trend with the way that D'Angelo Wallace presents his arguments.
So this thread isn't just the story of a man defending himself and trying to beat the NFT allegations.
Are you guys familiar with any NFT allegations? I'm not. Did he say there's a lot of people out there scamming using NFTs? Yeah. I don't know what NFT allegations D'Angelo Wallace is talking about here. It's almost like he just pulled it out of thin air and said, he's trying to beat the NFT allegations. What NFT allegations? See, this is why he doesn't want to debate anybody, because if I ask him, he's not going to know what the hell to say, because he doesn't even know where he pulled that from. But yet he's still trying to convince you, the audience, Nerd City bad.
This is the story of one individual fighting back against the entire woke mob of people discussing things in a month-old Reddit thread.
I'm glad that you pointed out, D'Angelo, that this is a month-old Reddit thread. Yet just a few minutes ago, you pointed out 6-year-old videos and used them as evidence. So who's really worse here? I mean, if we're going to point out that old information shouldn't be used to make points, then you're going to have to admit you cannot criticize Stop Patrol because it was made 6 years ago. But it's good enough evidence for you. But the minute a guy happens upon a month-old thread he might have missed, all of a sudden now isn't that cringe? But you could point out videos from 6 years ago and it's perfectly fine. Do you see the hypocrisy here, folks? Not to mention, Nerd City may have seen this when it was first posted, but just didn't have time to go back and have some fun with it. So when his schedule cleared up, maybe he thought, you know what? Maybe I should go send Dr. Downvote to go troll some of these people, because that seems like a fun time. Which it is. I mean, look how downvoted he's getting. Totally living up to his name. I'm sure he couldn't be prouder.
One of the greatest comedians to ever live. And you know what? They're right.
And so people, like maybe you are right now, were also totally blindsided by the whole woke thing, and they were like, I should never have any attachment or respect or admiration to any YouTuber I watch from now on. His analysis and editing used to be so good. Don't get attached to friends or family or your own reputation either, says Nerd City. For an ideology, all must be purified and liquidated.
Again, this is all just going right over D'Angelo Wallace's head. He has no effing clue what he's looking at right now, but he's trying to interpret it the best he can because he has to make you think he knows what he's talking about.
You doing okay, Nerd City? I'm sorry, there are so many replies on here that are like really heated, but it's just these little short ones that are like, bro, are you good? That really take me out.
Do they? Do they really take you out? You're literally letting the Reddit comment section do your job for you because you can't make a single solid point in regards to any of the stuff you're covering right now. This is like trash content on top of trash content. That's like 3 layers of trash. That's a lot of dirt.
And what's so funny about the people in this thread asking things like, ever figure out what he did? They genuinely wanted to know, like, why are people upset?
Dr. Downvote managed to stir up a swarm of angry Redditors inside of a subreddit, and they don't even know why. That's freaking hilarious. Just because you don't understand it, D'Angelo, doesn't mean the guy's having a mental breakdown. I find this to be incredibly hilarious. Not to mention that D'Angelo said earlier in the video, Nerd City's doing everything he can to outrun these NFT allegations, yet he's admitting right here he doesn't even know what Nerd City did. Like, you can't write this shit.
And then you get answers like, you know, he got really into NFTs. And even in the comments that are only about NFTs, he's responding like, do you struggle with nuance in every subject? It's just all binary to you? What about genders? I bet you understand that spectrum, no? How can NFTs be bad if there are also more than 2 genders? Is the logic we're going with here. Did your Reddit get hacked? If it's actually you, you should be aware posting 14 comments in 20 minutes on a month-old thread is not healthy behavior. Tell your wife you love her or something. I'm sorry, I think your NFT is lame. I'm sorry, tell your wife you love her or something is such a good line.
Oh my god, tell your wife you love her or something is such a good line. It's way better than anything I could ever come up with because I'm basically just reading what they're writing and then trying to tell you it's content. And look how smart I am. I can read Reddit comments. I am so smart. I will admit, it is kind of entertaining watching D'Angelo Wallace try to make sense of something that is clearly meant to just be nonsensical. And in that, there's entertainment. But not because D'Angelo is winning or nerds taking L's. It's because D'Angelo has no fucking clue what he's doing. And it's obvious.
But I want you to tell me which is your favorite response in this thread because there's so much gold here.
Is there, D'Angelo? Is there so much gold there when really all you're doing is just reading a Reddit thread? At the end of the day, that is all he's doing is just reading a Reddit thread of a disagreement between an influencer and a couple of people who used to watch him, who clearly didn't like him before they even started talking to him. It's not like Nerd City just decided to bombard a bunch of people who were saying, hey, I really like his content. That's not how that went down at all. It was a clear trolling attempt. I mean, the guy's name is literally paging Dr. Downvote. Therefore, you are paging someone to come and get downvoted. And I think he did a good job. You don't get downvoted by saying nice things to people. Then again, though, I have seen people get downvoted like 70 times just for saying thank you to someone. Because in my opinion, Reddit's like the most toxic place on the internet. So I guess that could happen. But it's easy to get downvoted. You get downvoted by going in there and trolling the absolute ever-living crap out of people in a drama YouTube. And with that said, I'd consider that mission success.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Now, I could sit here and make fun of D'Angelo Wallace all day for just clearly not understanding what is happening in this subreddit. I'm sure the people in the subreddit didn't even know what was happening in the subreddit either, which is why it's so freaking funny to me. But we have a whole nother guy that also has been launching his anti-Nerd City campaign. Hey guys, and I haven't even explained yet the simple technique being used by both D'Angelo Wallace and Nicholas Deorio to make you, the audience, think that Nerd City is on a complete mental breakdown when that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, you'll find one major common theme between Nick's videos and D'Angelo's videos, but I'll tell you guys that in a little bit. However, there is a glaring difference in the approach that these guys take, and one is way more slicker than the other one. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I like Nicholas Deorio. I think that his abrasive personality and his I don't give a F attitude works for me. It's something I would actually consider endearing. I like his brutal honesty when it comes to a lot of topics, and I find myself agreeing with him way more often than I disagree with him. I reacted to Nick's Nerd City video live on stream, and I tried to be as fair as I possibly could when looking at the evidence that Nick was trying to show us. In a lot of situations, I agreed with Nick, but in a lot of situations, I also agreed with Nerd City. That is until I got a little more context about the situation and realized that Nick wasn't really being as transparent as he led on to believe. Now, a major difference between the way that Nick breaks down this situation and the way that D'Angelo Wallace broke down the situation is D'Angelo Wallace has no clue what he's talking about, has no comprehension of what kind of person Nerd City is. He was just trying to make trash content as fast as he possibly could to get some money. D'Angelo Wallace was incredibly irresponsible in the way that he approached this whole topic, but he was just trying to ride a trend. And that leaves him for easy criticism. Once you become familiar with the situation, you'll clearly understand that D'Angelo Wallace has no clue what he's talking about, and he comes off like a complete idiot, to be honest with you, for lack of a better term. But Nicholas Deorio has a rich history of going back and forth with Nerd City.
So in a lot of ways, I'm done. I'm not pulling any more punches. Nerd City can go f himself.
I'm Dr. Douchebag. Today we're going to be going through the A's, the B's, and the C's of how to present a functioning argument. First things first, you put in some sort of opinion. It could be about whatever you want it to be. And then, this is where it gets difficult, you add 2 to 3 supporting details to back up that claim. That's how, in this sort of situation, it's gonna hold weight when someone makes a counter argument. That's how these things work. I say something, you say something, but if the thing I say means absolutely nothing, well then my argument's shit.
So needless to say, Nicholas Deorio is much more familiar with who Nerd City is than someone like the moron D'Angelo Wallace. And that tends to make my job a little more difficult now that I know that Nick Deorio knows who Nerd City is, has a history with him. Trying to break down his critiques of Nerd City may seem to be a little bit more difficult, but I assure you, audience, once I am done, you will again understand that Nick is poisoning the well and he is tainting the meat, if you will, of information. So to give you guys a quick synopsis of the history between Nicholas Deorio and Nerd City, when Nerd City made his Jake Paul video, in that video, he starts his hook with Jake Paul is doing stuff that would be considered illegal in broadcasting, and Nick pointed out that since we are on YouTube, you cannot apply that logic to your hook, but it's just a hook. It's a YouTube hook. And while Nick's right that it wouldn't be illegal on YouTube, Nerd City was trying to be like, yeah, but there's so much more good stuff in that video, and you guys are harping on this one point, which, let's be honest, anybody who's ever done YouTube knows that you need a good catchy hook to get people to want to keep watching. Now, in my opinion, should they have obsessed over the hook as much as they did? No, they probably shouldn't have. I mean, we all know how this game is played. You need something catchy to keep people watching. And I think the best way to approach this would be to take a look at the beginning of Nicholas Deorio's video and see how it differs from the way that D'Angelo Wallace opened up his video.
Hey guys, in the time since this stream was recorded, Nerd City posted a massive cope wall to the TBH Discord server announcing his departure from the podcast. Personally, I think this is really funny, and I'll probably give it a full read the next time I go live, but Nerd seems to think he can respond to trolling with logic. People are making fun of him, and he's writing essays to appease or explain his thought process to people who quite literally don't care and are just happy to continue making fun of him. If anything, this is the most recent example of how Nerd City isn't able to properly navigate his own drama. It's like he's been locked in a bunker for the last 4 years, lobbing insults and exposed videos on YouTube's easiest targets while praying he's never actually going to be the subject of one himself.
Now, I'll admit, as far as intros go, Nicholas Deorio's intro had a lot more information than D'Angelo Wallace's basically being, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen." Like I said, this part is going to be a lot more difficult than D'Angelo Wallace, who was basically just throwing up whatever he's reading on Reddit, as where Nick tends to approach things a lot more philosophical. But with that said, I still have some critiques. So something similar to D'Angelo Wallace's video, Nick is priming his audience on how to interpret the information he is about to deliver to them. By first stating that this is cope, he is relaying to his audience that Nerd City is weak. He also goes on to say, "I just find this funny," aka I look at Nerd City as a joke. So he starts off by saying he is coping because he's weak, and he is funny because he is a joke. It is just his priming of the audience to say, from here on out, whatever I give you, we are going to be looking at as a funny joke about a weak man.
Nerd City posted a massive cope wall to the TBH Discord server announcing his departure from the podcast. Personally, I think this is really funny.
Now again, I just want to add, Nick has the right to view anybody however he wants, but when you are leading your audience to agree with you through tactics that some may consider to be a bit manipulative, you know, that's where I find the issue with all of this. Now obviously Nick has bad blood with Nerd City, and we're going to go into that too, but I just wanted you guys to just understand the kind of tactics that some influencers use to get you to get on board before they even present any information. Again, Nick is a grown-ass man. He can dislike whoever he wants, but for you to only agree just because it's Nick, that is where my problem is. So this video by Nick was 2.5 hours long, so I'm not going to react to the whole entire thing. Instead, I'm just going to take pieces that I find that showcase the techniques that Nick uses here to create the narrative that Nerd City is losing his whole damn mind. But if you do want to see my full reaction to Nick's video and see that I've been pretty consistent this whole entire time, I'll post a link to my Later with Lately channel and that video below. So Nerd City was part of this podcast. It was called the TBH podcast, which I stands for To Be Honest podcast, which was Colossal's Crazy, Nerd City, Dolan Duck, and Pyro Cynical. All very big YouTubers. Now what Nick's going to show you here is that people in that Discord or in the TBH Discord developed a bit of a trolly personality, which you saw in the Reddit comments that Nerd City has no problem being trolly, but he would prefer not to have his own communities be that way. And after all, it is his own communities. So let's take a look at how Nick presents this information to you.
Nerd City is leaving the To Be Honest podcast. I'm not recording until they start deleting the lies from the Pyro subreddit, at the very least. But ideally, they should speak up and discourage it. But that's too much to ask, so censorship at minimum. What the Oh man. Going to Reddit is different than going to Pyro's Discord or Pyro's subreddit. It only festered because he's a coward, and so is Dolan, and so are his mods. Banning from people from here went there, where they're never gonna be banned unless they cross the magic line with him. You lot never had my back. You unbanned everyone who I banned just so they think you're cool. They turned this server into a hate community that necessitated coming back into the server to end the Nazi gifts and vindictive fixation you were all presiding over daily, like the most self-concerned heads in the sand admins.
Now, the first thing that jumps out at me right away is the tone in which Nick is reading Nerd City's paragraphs. You know who else did this? D'Angelo Wallace.
As you can see, nothing but not bow down to the cowards who dogpile people and pretend everyone is a for doing something a little baby sheep didn't like. Think for yourselves, what a pathetic mob.
In fact, they both did it throughout their whole entire videos. It's the simplest way of taking what could be innocent commentary and turning it evil by putting a malicious tone on everything they say. And also kind of manipulative too. Now I get it, they're content creators, they need to be entertaining, it's part of the job. But when you are purposely misrepresenting the way that something was meant to be said, that is what we call deception. That is also frowned upon in most Western societies. In fact, probably all over the world. The funniest part of this whole thing is they both do it in completely different ways, whereas D'Angelo represents Nerd City's words as some kind of crybaby type thing. Nicholas Deorio just flat out takes an evil tone with the way that he says it. Here's a perfect example. I want you to pay attention to the way that Nicholas read that first paragraph and then the way that he reads the second.
It only festered because he's a coward, and so is Dolan, and so are his mods. Banning from people from here went there, where they're never gonna be banned unless they cross the magic line with him. Communities were being instrumentalized to spread this narrative about me, needing to be canceled, and he'd acknowledge it with little dappy wappy minty baby talk. Dappy wappy minty baby. By the way, that's referencing his NFTs, the DApps. I own like 3 of them, but yeah, they're DApps.
So then, Nick, I gotta ask you, what changed between the way you started reading it to the way you decided to read the second paragraph? Was it because you happened to be talking about his DApps and you own 3 of them and therefore you're not trying to like destroy something that you own? I'm just curious because that was quite the tone shift from the first paragraph to the second, and I don't really understand how someone can calm down that fast. Here's another solid example of just a few minutes later in the video where Nicholas is gonna do a back and forth between someone in the Discord and Nerd City, and notice how he changes the way that Nerd talks compared to how the other guy talks.
All of them are Pyrocynical fans. The weirdest thing is they aren't. Yeah, they came from his channel, but when he uploads, they don't care. Most of them don't even listen to us. They don't even listen to our podcast. Clown fans are a mixed bag. A mix of something, to be sure. Don't send it into lab. YouTube drama era is the cause. By the way, all these people are drama YouTubers. Having a podcast Patreon Discord with 24 trolls online all the time who don't listen to the show was not how I thought it was going to go. Oh, man.
Now, again, this is a 2.5 hour long stream, so if you want to go see more examples of that, I'll link Nick's video in the description below, so you can go check that out for yourself. I'm just pointing out there's several times in there that he likes to try to take the way that Nerd says stuff and change it into something evil, or just something incredibly insufferable.
And I paid Patreon this year. Well, I'm truly sorry. I tried to ban the idiots, and I turned the disc. I wanted to turn it into a decent service, but it's only fun for the 20 to 30 people who ruin it for everyone and try to speak for everyone. I'll keep doing watch parties in here.
So something else that I wanted to add about this whole Discord drama that some people may have missed, after I did a little digging around, I found out that it seems like people who were banned from the TBH Discord would make things called splinter servers, where they would like rejoin other servers and then kind of just obsess over the fact that they got banned from the TBH server. Gee, this kind of reminds me of another story I covered. But we're not going to get into that right now. But it would turn out that some of these people would go and create alt accounts that would almost identically represent those of Nerd City, using all the same colors and stuff so that they could go around Reddit, basically spreading hate, I guess, against the African American community. A bunch of other things, too, that would make them look really, really bad. But unless you actually investigated this and looked into this deeper, you probably wouldn't have been aware of that because it's so easy to fake a name or pretend to be someone that you're not. Now, as far as I know, none of those people were represented in D'Angelo or Nick's videos, but I just thought it was an interesting fact to point out, considering that this isn't the first time that people have tried to take down Nerd City. There seems to be a history involved with the TBH podcast of really angry band members trying to get like revenge on anybody who's associated with TBH, and that doesn't just include Nerd City, that includes Colossal, Pyrocynical, and Dolan Dark. Now this next part is Nicholas Deorio starting off doing his evil nerd voice, and then catching himself realizing that what he's reading has nothing to do with the topic at hand.
There's absolutely zero reason I can think for Anissa Joe. Wait, how did this get in there? How did this get in there? This wasn't supposed to be in here. I'm sorry. I don't know how this got in here. There's absolutely zero reason I can think for Anissa Jomha to have me blocked on Twitter. I never took shots at her. I've bitten my tongue, in fact, during countless screw-ups. I've been nothing but helpful and encouraging in the past. Ooh.
I do find this odd, though, that he starts reading this in a very maniacal voice just to all of a sudden switch it up real quick when he realizes that it's a topic that doesn't really have to do with what he was talking about before. I mean, it's all about intention at the end of the day. Again, as a creator, I like Nick. I find myself agreeing with Nick far more often than I do disagreeing. I happen to disagree, though, with the way that he represented this whole Nerd City thing, and I want to make sure that that's clear to anybody watching this, even if Nick himself watches this. I just feel like it's disingenuous to your audience to attack someone who probably doesn't deserve it because he wants his community to be a little nicer to each other. I mentioned this part in my stream, but if you are somebody who's coming into a new community, and I'm sure this has probably happened to some of you guys out there, but if you come into a new community and everybody's very trolly, you don't know really where you fit in, because you can't be a person who comes in and immediately starts busting people's balls, because that could turn you into someone that nobody likes just because you're trying to bust balls too early. So I don't think that anything Nerd's saying here is really like that out of whack.
Being on that server at all is like starting with 2 strikes. If the first thing you want to do is talk about Dolan's trolls or post-T shit, that's strike 3. We don't need to get to know you here. So he's just nuking people who have that server, I guess. Layered in actual autism, it gets even harder for a new join to sort out what not to do. They literally just copy what they see other people doing to fit in. And the end result is a server that no one normal would want to talk in. Based General was supposed to be that, but vindictive people and sewage spilled in. Nerd City, please come to Brazil! When Pyro said new video tomorrow and no one responded, or people just tell him to die, that's not normal. Most people coming from my channel tell me they don't even like that.
Again, I don't understand why Nick's like making this all sound like some unreasonable thing. Who would want a community full of people that constantly just attack them all day? Whether it's a joke or not, it can be annoying. Yep, let me log into Discord today. Hey, EG, go f yourself. Oh, hey, good to see you too. Like, no, that's not a community that I think most people want to be a part of. I know that for Nick, like, he loves that kind of environment, but for me, no, that's not for me. If you like walking into a place and having the first person you say go, you look like shit today, and they expect you to say thank you, I mean, that's for you to decide. But I mean, for me, that's not really something that I think is a very healthy community, in my opinion. So I don't think anything that Nerd City said so far would suggest a mental decline or mental spiral, whatever they're trying to portray here. So just to support what I'm saying about Nick being kind of ridiculous about pointing out how much of a sap Nerd City is for not wanting a community of trolls, I wanted to go to this particular example from one of Pyro's Cynical TV streams. This was 2 weeks ago, and in this clip you'll see Pyro talking about Nerd City's exit from the TBH podcast.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. He is leaving the podcast. We're still mates. He's going to stay in as a mod and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he wanted like a more serious audience that like respected his discussion, and then my audience is known for literally just shit posting. Like, I think the nicest post I've ever seen on the parasitical subreddit is someone telling me to kill myself. But that's the community I fostered, right? Like, you know, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that. Like, I do the clip farming, I do the rage baiting, I do the react Andy. It's normal. But I also know a lot of you can like just like snap out of it as well. Because I've noticed that like one good example is the subreddit, right? Like, they troll me relentlessly, but then when someone on the outside actually comes for me, everyone starts like defending me. It's like, no, you can't with him. Only me, a Pyro viewer, can fuck with this guy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, he's still going to be in the server. We're still mates. I reached out to him privately and he was really nice there. So I think that's pretty much the end of it. I'll be honest, like, most people aren't even aware of that drama, but I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like a lot of people are going to ask about it on stream. So
again, there's countless examples that I could use to show Nick either purposely manipulating the way that he's sharing Nerd's words with you to make it sound worse than it really is. Countless examples of Nick trying to defend the idea that everybody in a Discord should be able to say whatever they want to the person who owns the Discord. I disagree with that fully. But let's move on to our next topic, and that is that Nick has a habit of trying to just make everything seem funny, even when it's not. In a way, it's just another way of manipulating his audience into thinking, this is crazy, right? Ha 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 ha. So just take a look at some clips here I put together of Nerd saying something that is not very controversial, and then Nick turning it into something completely crazy by laughing maniacally at it.
I'm starting to think my friends are actually not looking out for me or what we tried to build. Minty, winty, baby, wavy. Everyone, call in an hour. Do the podcast. Cloud, the podcast is gonna go. Oh no. Dude, the podcast is so over. I hadn't even seen this yet. What dude, what happened to this guy?
If I said these dog fights happening on cruise ships are
the Department of Justice and can't be bought with a credit card.
Thanks, Nerd City. I appreciate that.
You know, Nick probably did think like some of this stuff was actually funny, but I feel like he was using it more of a tool during this stream to kind of guide his audience into being like, look how ridiculous this guy is, than to actually use them as points of opposition. Now, this is where we're going to get to the point where I'm going to be clear, okay? I think there's a reason behind why Nick is doing this and why it's kind of out of the realm of what I normally see him doing, which is having logical and based takes. And that's because he has a personal issue with Nerd City. And again, it's perfectly fine to have a disagreement with another creator or just flat out not like them, but when you go and try to turn the whole internet against them and try to destroy their reputation because you don't like them, that is where I have an issue, Nick. For all I know, I'm talking out my ass and have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, Nick's been doing this way longer than I have. For all I know, I'm making no sense whatsoever. I do feel that when I was watching this video that some things just seemed off to me, and I wanted to bring that up in this video here. Do I think anybody should stop watching Nick? No. I think Nick's, again, a great creator. Don't watch Deangelo Wallace, though. I would definitely suggest not watching that guy, because that guy's just straight up manipulating the information. I feel like Nick is kind of letting his personal feelings kind of guide this campaign that he's on against Nerd City. Just to show you, I know how clouded his judgment has become during this whole Nerd City thing. He's actually agreed with Deangelo Wallace.
Do you struggle with nuance in
Oh, this is the crazy one.
every subject? It's just all binary to you? What about genders?
Is this
I bet
really
you
Wally?
understand that spectrum.
Dude, could you imagine writing Nerd City being like, hey man, I actually disagree with your argument here. It's like, really? This is all f***ing binary to you, isn't it, simpleton? I bet you understand the gender spectrum, though. Like, it's not even in the discussion. He's just like, yeah, obviously, clearly you're retarded. You must love trans people. Like, oh, okay. And he started fighting in the post from a month ago. Then he saw the new post and he started fighting with that one. Then someone made a post in r/subreddit drama discussing it, and then he started jumping into that thread. And he thought that he could come away from this looking like a f***ing intellectual. Like, he was just a normal person. He actually was, like, destroying these people with facts and logic and actually crushing them.
I would say I wish I was making this up, but I do not. This is so funny. This is amazing that this has happened. I haven't changed. People here are making up narratives to explain why they are feeling disconnected from a normal person and an ally like myself. The answer is you all got sucked into leftist activism and
got sucked into leftist activism? This guy's f***ing nuts. What does that even mean?
Oh, Nick. What are we gonna do with you, brother? I mean, you've become so clouded that you've missed the whole entire Dr. Downvote irony. You were in such a rush to hate on Nerd City that you ended up agreeing with a guy who clearly has no clue what's going on in this whole entire situation. I'm honestly so shocked. I think Nick is usually right on point with so many of his takes, but how he got this one so wrong? Where could he have gone so wrong? You'd think that Nick Deorio, of all people, could identify a troll when he sees one. I mean, do you really think that Nerd City would go to the post, then to the post of the post, then to the post replying to the post, for Deangelo Wallace to say, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, maybe it's a little too amazing, Deangelo. Nick, I expect Deangelo to fall for this shit, but I don't expect you to fall for it. I mean, how could Nick Deorio, of all people, fall for this? Well, that, my friends, is an interesting story. You see, Nick, like I said, has history with Nerd City. Let Nick explain it to you guys.
In 2022, I thought it would probably be smart to apologize to Nerd City privately for the things that I did do wrong. Like, I was pretty unhinged in fucking DMs and stuff like that when I first got started on YouTube, and I was certainly wrong about some of the stuff that we argued about for like the past 3 years. Not most of it, but certainly wrong about it. But I felt like that Nerd City was taking out his anger towards me on my friends, Josh, Augie, Tommy. Tommy was trying to reciprocate some sort of a friendship with him, and he was like in the call, and he goes, I think Nick is gonna dox me because he uses the term lolcow in his videos, and he's probably affiliated with like the Kiwi Farms. And I went like, what the fuck? And I left that call, but I was involved in like discussions about like repairing their friendship. I wrote, hey dude, you're under no obligation to do anything, and I don't plan to intrude publicly or even tell them I'm reaching out to you, so I'm doing this on behalf of my friends. A lot of drama happened 2 years ago, so this is 2022. I'm discussing drama that occurred in 2020. It's been 4 years since then. Even till I'm reaching out to you, a lot of the drama 2 years ago is something I don't look back on with a positive lens. I still hold a few of the same beliefs, the ones I explained to you tonight, but I went about it in a really stupid way. I know a lot of my friends have burned bridges with you since then, and I think they were just defending me. Things between us got way more heated than it needed to be, and I get hating me, but I think a few people got caught in the middle, and they're not bad people. That being said, it's 2 years. I don't hate you. Your new video is dope. Best one in your catalog. Keep schooling Jay Aubrey on NFTs. I'm glad that you got the NFT things rolled out. No response. I then I responded back a year later, and I'm like, yeah, dude, glad the NFTs came out, because there was a genuine problem with his NFTs. We were discussing it on stream very briefly because I'd bought 3 of them. I know people sunk like thousands of dollars into these things, and he at one point like deleted his roadmap, which was like, what's going on here? Now, I don't ultimately think they were worth anything because crypto basically died in the time that it took him to put them out.
Hi, I just wanted to interject real quick and add that the DApp collection was never created to be an investment NFT. It was created to be a collectible NFT from Nerd City for Nerd City fans. Nerd City looked at it as a way to easily distribute collectibles to his fans that could be later resold. He never had any intentions of making it the next Bored Ape or anything like that. Although, in my opinion, I think they're cooler than Bored Apes, but what do I know?
In comparison to where it was when it started. And they're worth like nothing now, but that's not really the problem. The problem was he wasn't releasing them, and people had these for months, and he just didn't roll them out. There's actually a rare drop. I don't know if you know what a rare drop, like the rare drop is. In his video where he announced this project, he said if you send in your address, he'd mail you the physical rare drop and your one-of-a-kind NFT for joining the server. I don't know if he ever sent those out, but I've never received mine, and I signed up for it and I did everything I was supposed to do. I never got that NFT. I never got that physical trading card. I got nothing. So there was a huge problem with his fucking rollout, but I let him know, hey, I'm glad you got the NFTs rolled out well. Pretty happy with mine. Good shit. Because when they finally came out, they worked. All the logos changed to actual stuff. I used this profile pic for a long while. By a sheer chance, you ended up in Wavy's place. I didn't reuse many backgrounds, so the odds of that were crazy. He told me, oh, do not identify this specific mural. It's a trade secret. And then one thing led to another. So he's talking about that. You did a good job on the artwork. Keem showed me the ones he got, and all of them look pretty sick too. I didn't talk to him for a full calendar year after this brief interaction, right? Hey, I was just wondering, why do you keep me unblocked if you hate me and all my friends? I've got no issue with you holding a grudge. I'm just curious. It's probably a combination of a few things, like Keemstar telling me you've grown up a lot, or whatever he thinks that means. But I think you were like 19 or 20 when you were randomly threatening me and tweeting at me 60 times in one day, bad-mouthing me to everyone. And you don't do that anymore. You might still loathe me for some unfair reason, but you've changed your tone and you come out with me on Twitter. It's more playful now, and I don't mind, you know? Instead of nonstop hostility and attempting to damage, you took the time to explain your Zaptai insights in a long series of DMs because I was potentially misinformed by Alex. You gave me the benefit of the doubt trying to make DApp good. I assumed you might be just playing some long game of betrayal with a heel turn. Well, I guess we're here. But in public, you went to bat for me on that. So I don't know. All that in combination, I have a limited capacity to forgive. You at least activated the possibility more than other people who irrationally started to hate me. Now, here's the truth of that. I defended Nerd City's NFTs because he released them. I defended Nerd City's crypto takes because he was correct. I defend things that are correct. I don't defend them based on people I like or dislike. If I hated Nerd City, I'd still defend those talking points every single time. Okay? I defend him with the artist stuff. I've tweeted out recently, I've literally tweeted out that the arguments against Nerd City are fucking crazy. Okay? All of that stuff, I think he's in the right on. The arguments that he's now happy that I've defended him on publicly are arguments that I believe in. That's why I defended him on it. And the reason why I fought with him years ago are because I think he's wrong about a lot of different shit. And those positions didn't change. So Nerd City was cool with me because I wasn't vocally attacking him on Twitter during these time frames because I just happened to agree with all the stuff he was saying. And then the minute I go on stream and I start talking about how he can't take criticism in DMs and how it's exactly the same as 5 years ago, then suddenly I'm blocked. I'm a bad person again. I'm irrationally hating him. I'm like everybody else. And now we're here again. So no, you can't take criticism. You never could. But now you do public stuff where you don't get to put a script in front of you every time you talk. And I'm a lot better at you. That's funny. I just made a mistake when I said that. But even after I made that mistake, I'm still a lot better than you at this. You can't even talk on a podcast where you get the final say before it's posted. Okay? So it's not gonna, it doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, so I responded to this. And I gave him like an honest answer. I appreciate your honest answer. I don't have any personal issues with you at this point. It's been a long 6 years since the back and forth about Jake Paul. And if anything, I look back on a lot of that fondly with a little bit of cringe mix in. So I said, yeah, listen, I look back on that whole situation fondly. I cringe at myself. On my end, that was my first YouTube drama. I had no idea what the I was doing. I'm almost positive I wouldn't be making content or have any online presence if we didn't get into that back and forth. So that's what I mean when I say I look back on it fondly. As far as I'm concerned, any hostility we had during disagreements is ancient history on my end. I remember the call with Clown and Tommy where you thought I was going to dox you or something because I used the term lolcow. That broke my brain. I was never looking for your forgiveness because I guarantee if we went back and ran down the list, we'd still disagree on a load of shit even today. I was, however, looking to make peace or a chat like this because it's been a long time and I don't even remember half the shit we fought about. Thankfully, I spent this stream catching back up on it. It's exactly what I said to him privately, is exactly what I said to him publicly. He didn't have a problem when I told him privately, I don't agree with majority of the stuff that we argued about. If we ran down the list, I'd still probably disagree on a whole lot. But when I tell you about it, it's a problem. So then I wrote, but yeah, I'm a self-admitted asshole who just does my best to cover stories well. I think all the crypto hate you got was pretty gay and it's insane how many people hate you for that. As I told you on stream, I didn't even know I was going to show you this. As I told you on stream, it's exactly what I presented to him privately. And then he wrote, understandable, I appreciate you reaching out. And the very next message, as you can see, is you can no longer talk to this person.
So clearly there's a lot to unpack there, not only because Nick just shared his personal conversation with Nerd City, which that in itself is its own conversation, whether or not that's ethical to do that, but two, because now you understand that Nick has a personal investment in trying to destroy Nerd City's credibility, which again calls into question what his motives about attacking Nerd City are. Is he hurt maybe that he was blocked? I mean, anybody out there who's ever been blocked by someone you've attempted to reconcile with, it is a strong feeling of rejection and can stick with you for a long time. Is that possibly what Nick's going through right now? I mean, we don't know. The main thing I'm trying to convey here is that you can both like Nick Deorio and Nerd City at the same time. You don't have to dislike Nerd City because you like Nick, and you don't have to dislike Nick because you like Nerd City. This is clearly a personal issue that took place between the two creators. My main critique here, though, is you don't see Nerd City out there attacking Nick constantly, but yet you see Nick constantly attacking Nerd City. That is mainly the point I'm trying to make in this whole entire video. Another thing I felt worth pointing out was that Nick kind of represents Nerd City blocking him almost immediately after having like the good faith conversation, but I was able to confirm that that block didn't happen until like a little while after. I mean, you could see that there was 1 year gaps between when they would talk beforehand. So I thought it was just a little disingenuous for Nick to act like that block happened immediately after that conversation took place, because that's not how that went down. Even though Nicholas Deorio had reached out to Nerd City in what was a good faith, let's let bygones be bygones kind of message, it would turn out that some of Nick's fans would still be trolling Nerd City, and I think eventually that just got to him to a point where he just, you know, was like, enough of this. I'm just gonna part ways with this whole situation and just put it to rest. I mean, if not for nothing else, we do understand that Nicholas Deorio can be a bit trolly at times.
I'm done. I'm not pulling any more punches. Nerd City can go f himself.
I mean, he said it right in his email there. But again, I want to make sure that everybody understands, like, I'm not making this video to attack Nick. This isn't like some expose on Nick. This is clearly just me trying to break down that maybe Nick's letting his feelings guide his perceptions of what he interprets to be Nerd City's mental breakdown. And since you, the audience, are not personally involved in this thing, I think it's important for us to remember to be jurors more than prosecutors. So just to wrap this up, you know, I do want to say I understand that Nick and Nerd have a history together. And again, I'm still a fan of Nicholas, but I'm also a fan of Nerd. I don't think that we should, as fans, get in the middle of a guy's beef with each other, because at the end of the day, we're hurting one or the other. Either you're going to side with Nick and stop watching Nerd, or you're going to side with Nerd and you're going to stop watching Nick. But I think, you know, as adults, which most of us should probably be by now, most of us can find a way to enjoy both people's content without having to pick a side. But mainly, I just wanted to squash the whole entire rumors that Nerd City's like going on this crazy mental spiral, because people on the internet tend to take these narratives and then just run with it to the hills to try to spread it to the mountaintops to be the first to break stories. If not for anything else, this was just a misinterpretation of a guy trolling for fun. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm still gonna watch whoever I want as a content creator, regardless if other content creators have beefs with those content creators. But I hope that this sheds some light on this whole situation for anybody who is concerned or worried about Nerd City's well-being. I promise you, the guy's doing fine. You should probably even expect some awesome content coming from him in the future. That's what I would imagine. And then he'll just remind us all again why we all liked him in the first place. I've noticed that the internet has short-term memory loss. So the minute that you forget someone because they haven't posted a little bit, you just forget what you've kind of liked about them in the first place. As where someone like Nick posts much more frequently than Nerd City. So it's much more easy to hear his opinions than it is to hear a guy who spends a lot more time organizing what he turns into projects. D'Angelo Wallace, on the other hand, doesn't really seem like he has any business attacking Nerd City. First off, he clearly has no clue what's going on in the situation. He's not Nick. He's not Nerd. He's not involved in this whatsoever. It was simply a cash grab and nothing more. And while I know that unfortunately this video will probably never reach the amount of people that D'Angelo's did, and will only do a minimal job of trying to repair some of the damage that D'Angelo did to Nerd's reputation, maybe I can help a little bit by restoring the ones that count. And that's the people who really care about Nerd City and want to see him succeed. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this whole situation. Do you think that Nerd has just completely lost his mind, or do you think that everybody is clearly interpreting this wrong, or that Nick's letting his anger towards Nerd kind of affect his judgment? You know, I feel like Nick's usually pretty based in a lot of the takes he has, but he was just way off with this one. I think he's kind of just letting his personal feelings get involved too much. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see another situation where Discord caused such a headache for a major YouTuber, I suggest clicking this link right here.